My NFJ friend, I want you to take a slow breath before this begins, not because this will be gentle, but because it will be honest. If you're an INFJ, look back at your relationship history for a second. Not just the last one, the pattern. Do you see it? You don't just attract partners. You attract projects. People with wounds you didn't cause. People with chaos you didn't create. People who see your empathy like a free energy source and think, finally, someone who won't leave. And for a long time, you told yourself a comforting lie. I just have a big heart. I'm drawn to depth. I see the good in people. All true and still incomplete. Because this isn't bad luck. This isn't coincidence. This is a specific psychological vulnerability, and narcissists are damn near engineered to detect it. This video isn't here to shame you. It's here to wake you up. We're going to talk about why your empathy, intuition, and desire to heal the very traits that make you extraordinary also make you a primary target for emotional predators. Not monsters in the obvious sense, but charming, wounded, magnetic people who slowly drain you while convincing you it's love. If you've ever felt confused, exhausted, emotionally hollow after a relationship like you lost yourself trying to save someone else, this is for you. This isn't about hating narcissists. It's about understanding the dynamic so it can never own you again. I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go, so if something hits close to home, leave a comment. I read them and I reply. And if this kind of truth resonates, subscribe, because this space is for depth, not bullshit. Now let's pull this pattern into the light. 1. The painful psychology behind the INFJ-narcissist attraction. The INFJ-narcissist connection doesn't start with abuse. It starts with recognition. You see them, not the mask, the wounded child underneath it. The insecurity buried beneath the arrogance, the pain beneath the performance, and something ancient in you responds. INFJs are wired to perceive potential, meaning you don't just see who someone is, you see who they could become if someone finally loved them correctly. That's not naivete. That's intuition mixed with hope. Narcissists, on the other hand, are starving not for love, but for validation, attention, and emotional supply. When they meet you, it feels like fate. You listen deeply, you reflect their inner world back to them, you make them feel understood without demanding they change at first. To them, you feel like oxygen. But here's the quiet danger. You confuse intensity with intimacy, and they confuse your empathy with permission. They trauma bond quickly, they overshare early, they fast-track emotional closeness. And your nervous system mistakes that rush for connection. You think, they trust me. They think they'll stay. This attraction is magnetic because it's complementary dysfunction. Your strength is emotional depth, their weakness is emotional emptiness. And for a while, it feels like you complete each other, until you start shrinking. Tell me, when you look back, was the connection built on mutual growth, or on you holding space for their wounds? 2. Why being needed is your drug. Here's the part INFJs don't like to admit even to themselves. Being needed feels intoxicating. When someone says, I've never felt understood like this before, something in you lights up. When someone leans on you emotionally, you feel purposeful, grounded, valuable. And narcissists know this. They don't ask for help directly. They collapse strategically. They present themselves as misunderstood geniuses, victims of past relationships, people who've never had real support. And you step in not because you're weak, but because you're compassionate. But over time, the dynamic shifts. Their needs expand, your boundaries erode, your emotional labor becomes expected, not appreciated. And the moment you pull back, they withdraw affection, create drama, question your loyalty. You stay not because you're blind, but because you feel responsible. INFJs are especially vulnerable here because your identity is often tied to meaning. And being needed gives meaning, but love is not a rescue mission. And connection that requires your self-erasure is not connection, it's consumption. Answer me this question. Have you ever stayed longer than you should have because you were afraid of abandoning someone? 3. How intellectualizing abuse becomes your own destruction. INFJs don't ignore red flags, you explain them. You analyze behavior, contextualize cruelty, and understand trauma responses. Instead of saying, this hurts me, you say, they're triggered, they didn't mean it, they're healing. You turn pain into a puzzle, abuse into a case study, and in doing so, you delay action. Narcissists thrive on this. They don't need to change. You'll do the emotional labor for them. You gaslight yourself with compassion. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to leave because now your identity is tied to the narrative that love requires endurance. This is exactly where the inner critic becomes dangerous. The truth that breaks the spell is simple. Understanding someone does not obligate you to sacrifice yourself. Your insight was meant to protect you, not imprison you. What behavior did you excuse that your body already knew was wrong? Well, here's the shift. You don't need to harden your heart to be safe. You need to sharpen your discernment. Empathy without boundaries is self-betrayal. Compassion without clarity is how you disappear. Reclaiming your energy doesn't make you cold, it makes you whole. You were never meant to be a reservoir for other people's chaos. You were meant to be a guide, not a sacrifice. The moment you stop seeing potential and start seeing patterns, everything changes. The fog lifts, the guilt weakens, the spell breaks. You remember who you were before survival became your personality. You remember that love should feel steady, not draining, safe, not consuming, mutual, not one-sided. You are not broken. You were trained to overgive. And now you are untraining that reflex. That is not cruelty, it is growth. If this resonated, I would genuinely love to hear your story. Leave a comment, I read everyone in reply. And if this kind of depth speaks to you, subscribe. This space is for truth, not performance, for healing, not pretending. For INFJs who are done confusing suffering with love, you are not here to save everyone. You are here to save yourself first. And when you do, the right people won't need rescuing. They'll meet you as equals. This is how the cycle ends. This is how you reclaim your power. This is how empathy becomes wisdom, and wisdom becomes peace. You were never too much. You were just giving too much to the wrong people. Now you see the pattern? And now it can never own you again. 4. From seeing potential to seeing reality. NFJs don't fall in love with who someone is. You fall in love with who they could become. You see the healed version before the work has even begun. You sense the future self hidden beneath the defenses, the wounds, the masks. Narcissists promise that version constantly. They speak in potential, vision, and someday language. They tell you who they will be, not who they are. And because you are intuitive, you believe the signal over the behavior. At first this feels like hope. Over time it becomes a trap. The turning point is subtle but brutal. You stop asking, why are they like this? You start asking, how do I feel when I'm with them? That question changes everything. Because your body never lies, even when your mind negotiates. You notice the tension you carry before seeing them, the exhaustion after conversations, the anxiety disguised as loyalty. Reality does not require interpretation. It does not need you to be compassionate to the point of self-erasure. It simply asks for honesty. Love should expand your sense of self, not shrink it. It should feel grounding, not destabilizing. Familiarity is not the same as safety. Intensity is not intimacy. Consistency is not boredom. You begin to see that potential without accountability is fantasy, and fantasy is where narcissists thrive. Seeing reality doesn't make you cold. It doesn't make you cynical. It makes you free. Freedom looks like choosing what is, not what could be. It looks like grieving the future you imagined. It looks like releasing the role of emotional translator. It looks like no longer auditioning for love. If nothing changed, could you live like this for 5 more years? 5. Reclaiming your energy from the emotional black hole. Leaving or emotionally detaching from a narcissist feels like withdrawal, because it is. Your nervous system has been trained to associate chaos with connection. Silence feels foreign, peace feels suspicious. You miss them even when you know they harmed you. That doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you're detoxing. On the other side of that withdrawal is something sacred, yourself. When you reclaim your energy, you don't become less loving. You become selective. Your empathy stops bleeding outward uncontrollably. It begins to circulate inward. Your intuition sharpens, your discernment strengthens. Your boundaries stop feeling cruel and start feeling holy. You realize how much life force you were exporting. How much creativity, insight, and warmth you were pouring into someone else's void. You were never meant to be an emotional power source, especially not for people who refuse to heal. You were meant to walk beside equals. People who carry their own weight, people who repair instead of deflect, people who meet you in presence, not need. Reclaiming your energy is not abandonment. It is alignment. What would your life look like if your energy belonged fully to you? My INFJ friend, this pattern was never a curse. It was a lesson, a painful one, a clarifying one. It taught you the difference between compassion and self-betrayal, between love and addiction, between healing others and honoring yourself. You don't need to harden your heart. You need to protect it. Protection is not fear. It is wisdom earned through experience. You are not broken. You were trained to overgive. You were rewarded for endurance instead of reciprocity. Now you know better. And knowing better changes everything. If this resonated, I would genuinely love to hear your story. Leave a comment. I read them and reply. If you want more soul-deep, no-fluff insight like this, subscribe. This space is for those done confusing suffering with love. You are not too much. You are giving too much to the wrong people. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to choose yourself. Awareness is where the cycle ends. Boundaries are where healing begins. Clarity is where power returns. You no longer belong to the pattern. The pattern belongs to the past. You see it now. You trust yourself now. You stand differently now. This is what growth actually looks like. Quiet, firm, self-honoring. You are free because you are awake. And you will never unsee the truth again.